Dear student, today I'll be starting with the module 5, that is syntax-directed translation and code generator. This includes syntax-directed definitions, evaluation order of syntax-directed definitions, applications of syntax-directed translation, intermediate code generator, and issues in the code generation. In this video, I'll be covering the first two topics, that is syntax-directed definition. The second one is evaluation order of syntax-directed definition. The remaining things will be covered in the later videos. Coming to the syntax-directed definition, what do you mean by syntax-directed definition? The definition says that a syntax-directed definition is a context-free grammar with attributes and a semantic rules. It means, consider this particular production. In this particular production, it says that E tends to E1 plus T. Now you know that we write the rule or the production in case of the context-free grammar. The difference between the context-free grammar to the syntax-directed definition is that in case of this, every rule in this context-free grammar has got a semantic rule, and also each and every symbol is associated with an attribute value. In case of this, there is an attribute value called code is associated with a variable E1. Similarly, the attribute code is associated with T, and similarly, the attribute code is associated with E. Now, the semantic rule says that this particular node will be get executed in the other way. The value of this particular attribute value, that is E dot code, is depends upon the evaluation of this particular rule. The evaluation will take place in such a way that the value, the attribute value of this E1 plus the attribute value of T will be added, and that will be the attribute value of this particular E. So it means the attributes are associated with the grammar symbols and the rules with the production. It means that in this particular things, so the rules are associated with, I mean to say that the semantic rules are associated with the production, and in each particular node, there is an attribute value is associated with a particular symbol. So that's why it is called as syntax-directed definition. The syntax-directed definition says that the context-free grammar having semantic rule along with the attribute value associated with each grammar symbol. So here, as I said earlier, code is an attribute value associated with E and T variables. So please don't get confused. Both this E as well as E1 are one and the same. Only to show that there is a difference, there is a child node and there is a parent node, we have given this as E1. So attribute may be of any kind, that is, it may be a number, maybe a type, maybe a table reference, maybe a string. You know that in a database management system, you say that the attribute of a name is nothing but the first name, the middle name, and the last name. Similarly, every variable or every symbol in the grammar has got an attribute value associated with this, and every rule has an associated with a semantic rule. That's why it is called as syntax-directed definitions. So there are two types of attributes out there. One is synthesized attribute. So it says that a synthesized attribute at a node n is defined only in terms of attribute value of children of the n or an n itself. It means that if this particular node n, if it gets its value from its child or from its children, or it gets its value from itself, then such attribute is called as synthesized attribute. So whereas in case of the inherited attribute, so what about in case of inherited attribute is that if there is a node n is defined only in terms of attribute value of its n's parent, n's sibling, and n itself. It means that if the value move from parent to child, if the value move from one sibling to another sibling or itself, such attribute is called as an inherited attribute. So for example, this is an example for syntax-directed definition for a simple desk calculator. Please observe that when we say that it is a syntax-directed definition, there should be a context-free grammar having the rules. I mean to say that the productions, for each production, there is a semantic rule. What is the semantic rule specifies? How this particular node will be get evaluated. It means that how L is going to get its value, how E is going to get its value, and in the other way, it means that each and every node will get evaluated. How each node will be get evaluated, the rule is specified as a semantic rule. So this is a simple example for syntax directed definition for a simple desktop calculator. So you can just observe that. So how we are going to write the rules for this? So the rules can be written. It is better to write a context-free graph. I mean to say that a parse tree, and then convert the parse tree into a rule. So if you write a parse tree for this, so I'll explain what is this annotated parse tree. So if you just write a parse tree for generating the string 5 plus 3 star 4, you know that. So first of all, I need to say that L tends to E. Then I say that E tends to E plus L, and then E tends to T, T tends to F, F tends to digit. So similarly, T tends to T star F, T tends to F, F tends to digit. Similarly, F tends to digit. So this is how you are going to construct the parse tree. What is how we are going to write the semantic rule is, so you can see that now this digit has got a value associated with this. That is, the attribute value associated with this is a lexical value. This lexical analyzer is going to return the lexical value. So my digit is going to get its value from the lexical analyzer. So you can just observe that whatever the lexical analyzer gives its value, that will be passed to the F value. So that is why it says that F dot value will be obtained from this digit dot lex value. It means that the attribute value associated with the digit is lex value will be passed to the attribute value associated with this F is VAL, will be passed to this particular F dot value. Similarly, so you can see that if I say F tends to T or T tends to E. So once I say that F tends to T, so T should get its value from F. So my semantic rule is T tends to F. That is, T dot value is equals to F dot value. Similarly, F also gets its value from E. That's why we have written F dot value is equals to E dot value. You can just observe that my F is going to get its value from E. F is going to get its value from E. Somewhere I've used that F tends to E. There is a possibility that I can use F tends to E also in generating the different tree. That's why it is written as F dot value is equals to E dot value. So once I get the F dot value, T dot value, in order to evaluate this T, the rule written is T dot value is equals to T dot value multiplied by F dot value. It means that once you get this value of T, once you get the value of F, so using these value, you can evaluate the value of this particular T. I mean to say that the attribute values of T and F, once you get, then you get the attribute value of T. That's why we have written as T dot value is equals to T dot value plus star F dot value. Similarly, if I say E tends to T, I'm going to get the value of T will be passed to E. That's why we write E dot value is equals to T dot value. Similarly, E tends to E plus T. The rule to evaluate this particular node is E dot value plus T dot value. So similarly, finally the L is going to get its value from E. So then the N represent the end of the string. Once E gets its value, that will be passed to the L. It means that, so you can just observe that in every rule, the node is getting its value from child or from the children. Such type of you can say that attribute is called as synthesized attribute, because it is going to get its value from its children or from the child. Now, coming to this annotated parse tree. Now, the difference between the parse tree to the annotated parse tree is that in case of annotated parse tree, a parse tree is showing the values of an attribute at each node is called as an annotated parse tree. As I said earlier, first I'm supposed to write the syntax directed definition for a given grammar. Once I write the syntax directed definition, I use the syntax directed definition to evaluate the value at every node. So you write this particular syntax tree. After that, you evaluate at every node. Now, the first one will be get evaluated is this. Now, what it does is the digit.lex value is nothing but the lexical analyzer is going to return the value of this particular digit. So then I mean to say that the number value will be assigned to this particular digit. So this value will be passed to the F. This value will be passed to T. This value will be passed to E. So once you get this E dot value, similarly you get the value for other particular symbols also. Finally, you get T dot value. So since E dot value, T dot value is ready for evaluation of this particular node, this node will be get evaluated. Finally, this value will be assigned to this particular L. So once again, you can observe that my L dot value is equals to E dot value. I'm going to get this L dot value is equals to E dot value. So this is called as an annotated parse tree, and also it's an example for synthesized attribute. So you can observe that every node is getting its value from its children, or from child. That's why it is called as syntax directed definition for an in synthesized attribute. So you can just try for an example for generating the annotated parse tree for 4 plus 3 star 5 plus 6. As I said earlier, so my F is also going to get the value from E. There is a possibility of applying the E in case of this. So here the evaluation will be done and then the value will be assigned to the F. You can just try out this. So next is dependency graph. What is a dependency graph? A dependency graph depicts the flow of information among the attribute instance, how the data is flowing from one node to the another node. So it means if there is an edge going from node X with an attribute A, that is X dot A, as I said earlier, A is an attribute associated with X, to a node Y with an attribute value B, that is Y dot B. Now please observe that A is associated with X, B is associated with Y, but my Y value is depends upon X value, then the attribute value of node Y is depends upon attribute value of X. That's why there is an arrow from X dot A to Y dot B. So this is called as a dependency graph. In this case, my Y dot B is depends upon X dot A. So continue with that. A dependency graph is used to determine the order of computation or evaluation of attribute. It means that which one will be get executed first, which one will be get executed next, that will be represented using the dependency graph. So continue with that. If a semantic rule defines the value of a synthesis attribute, as I said earlier, my synthesis attribute is 1, which it gets its value from its child or from the children. It means that A dot B in terms of value of X dot C. It means that now my A dot B is depends upon the value of X dot C. Then the dependency graph has an edge from X dot C to A dot B. So that's why it is called as synthesized attribute, and the dependency graph shows that there is an edge moving from X dot C to A dot B. So similarly, if a semantic rule defines the value of an inherited attribute, so B dot C in terms of value of X dot C, then the dependency graph has an edge from X dot C to B dot C. Please observe that there is an edge moving from X dot C to B dot C. It may be from left to right. That is, when you are getting the value of X dot C, when you are getting the value of B dot C from X dot C, it means that it is passing the value from its sibling, or it is getting a value from its parent. Either it moving from left to right, or it is moving from top to bottom. So it never move from right to left. Whereas right to left happens in case of synthesis attribute, bottom to top will also applies in synthesis attribute. Now, well, if the dependency graph has an edge in general, if the dependency graph has an edge from M to N, then M must be evaluated before the attribute of N. So it means if there is an edge from M to N, so you can observe that M should be evaluated first, then N will be get evaluated. Thus, the only allowable order of evaluation are those sequence of nodes N1, N2, Nk up to Nk, such that if there is an edge from Ni to Nj, then I should be less than J. Such an ordering is called as topological sort of a graph. So coming to an example of dependency graph, we'll take the same example of what we took in the previous example for synthesis attribute. Please observe that the writing the syntax directed definition is very simple. For the given productions, write the semantic rule. Those semantic rules specifies how you are going to get the attribute value, how each node will be get evaluated. Now, in case of this, L will get its value from E. E will get its value by evaluating E dot value plus T dot value. Now my E dot value will get its value from T dot value. My T dot value will get its value from T dot value multiplied by F dot value. T dot value will get it from F dot value. F dot value will get it from E dot value. F dot value will get it from digit dot lex value. So because all these things are getting its value from right to left, that is nothing but from bottom to top. Then the dependency graph should have an edge from bottom to top. You can just observe that in case of this, this shows that which will be get executed first. So we should give the number for this. So digit dot lex value will be get executed first, and then F dot value will be get executed. Now this you will get it from the lexical analyzer directly. Once you get the value from the lexical analyzer, then that will be passed to the f dot value, then in turn it will be passed to the t dot value, in turn it will be passed to the e dot value. So similarly, since plus cannot be executed at the because plus cannot be executed without having the t dot value, so digit dot lex value will be get executed in case of this, and similarly this value will be passed to the f dot value, this will be passed to the t dot value, and also since I cannot execute star here, I should get the value of 4, that 4 will be passed to the f. Once I get the value of t dot value, once I get the f dot value, that will be get executed, and then finally the plus will be get executed, that is e dot value is equals to e dot value plus t dot value. Finally the result will be given to the l dot value. Please observe that whichever the will be get executed, that is called as a topological order. So that is how we represent the synthesized attribute. Now coming to an inherited attribute, it's very important because understanding an inherited attribute requires lots of patience. So you can just observe that this particular grammar is used to generate a number of variables of a particular type. So in case of this, so it says that t tends to TL, t tends to int, t tends to real. It means that int and real. Now t is getting its value from its child, that's why it is called as a synthesized attribute. Whereas in case of this, we have two things. One is we get the inherited value from its sibling, and also we get the inherited value from its parents also. I'll explain how we are going to get. Once again, it will get its value from the lexical analyzer. So once again, we need to make an entry into the symbol table. Now this particular production is used to generate the variable of different data types. So carefully you can observe that how to write the semantic rule for this. So when you want to write the semantic rule for this, so it says that when I write this parse tree for this, so this says that t tends to TL. You can just observe that t tends to TL. So when I say t tends to TL, I can replace this t by int. When I replace this t by int or real, so I get the value of this real. So next thing is, now for example, if you consider this particular tree, now I can replace this L by L comma ID, or I can replace this by L by ID also. There are two options. One is L tends to L comma ID, the other one is L tends to ID. If at all, if I want to generate a string is of type float ID1 comma ID2 comma ID3, then I am supposed to replace this L by L comma ID, L comma ID. Finally, I am supposed to replace this L by ID. So for this case, now you can just observe that in case of this, now I am not going to get the value of this L directly, because in order to make an entry into the symbols table, I should know what is the data type of this particular ID. So how I am going to get the data type of this ID? Now my data type of the ID is present in some other subtree, that is in the other subtree. I cannot make an entry into the symbol table until and unless I get the data type of this. So my L dot value, I mean to say that my L value is depends upon the T value. So since I'm getting the value from its sibling, I say that it is an inherited attribute. So the semantic rule for this will be L dot inherited is equals to T dot type. How you have written that? Because you are going to get this L dot inherited value from this T dot type. So my T dot type is simple because it's a direct value. T dot type is equals to integer, T dot type is equals to real. I hope you understood this one. Now my next case is, now once I get this particular data type, I can make an entry into the symbol table, but I can make an entry into the symbol table. So in order to make an entry to the symbol table, I must know the inherited value, that is the data type, and also I must know the value of this particular ID also. So then I know the ID value. Since I know the data type also, I make a call to a function. So what is the function I'm going to make a call? I'm going to make a call to a function that is entry underscore type of ID dot entry comma L dot in. So my ID dot entry is nothing but I'm going to get the value from the lexical analyzer, and my L dot in is nothing but I already got the value of L dot in from my T dot type. So that is an inherited value that will be the call will be made, and that particular ID will be entered into the symbol table. Once I enter into the symbol table, now when I come to the next level, since I can make an entry into the symbol table because I got the value of ID from the lexical analyzer, but I don't know the value of this particular L value, the data type of this. So how I'm going to get this value? I'm going to get the value from this particular L. So that's why we write in one more semantic rule at this particular node, that is L dot init is equals to L1 dot inherited. That is L1 dot inherited is equals to L dot inherited. So it means that this becomes my L1 dot, this becomes my L dot. See, both are one and the same. Only to separate this one from this one, we show that L1 dot inherited is equals to L dot inherited. So the semantic rule is L1 dot inherited is equals to L dot inherited. So there is one more rule we write in this particular node. So we have written the rule for this, and this, and as well as this is simple one. So at the end, once you get this particular value, and once you get the value of this inherited value, you can directly make an entry into the symbol table because you know the value of this particular ID, you know the value of the data type also, so that you can make an entry into the symbol table directly, so that we make a call to a function entry underscore type is equals to id dot entry comma l dot in. So in case of dependency graph, how we are going to represent it is, now my parse tree will be shown as a dotted line, whereas my dependency graph will be shown as in a thick line. So in case of this, now how the order of evaluation will be taken place. See, first thing is I can get the value of ID1, I can get the value of ID2, I can get the value of ID3. So I can get these value of ID1, ID2, ID3 from lexical analyzer. Then I get the value of T directly from the keyword real. So my 4 will be this. So once I get this 1, 2, 3, 4, I cannot execute this unless it gets its value from this T dot value. So there is an edge moving from 4 to 5. So once I get this, so then I make an entry to the symbol table by calling the function that is entry underscore type of id dot entry comma l dot in. You can carefully observe that I'm making a call to a function entry underscore type by getting the value of this inherited value plus id value. So this id value is nothing but the variable name which you have entered into the as a user. So similarly, once I get this, so I complete the entry of this, then I pass this value to the next level. That is the next thing will be get executed is 7, which gets the value that is L1 dot in is equals to L dot inherited. Once it gets its value, once again I make a call to an entry of entry underscore type of L dot inherited plus id dot entry, which is once again will be get executed. Once I execute this, the next level will be the value of this data type will be passed to this particular L value. So it also gets its inherited value. Once I get, then once again I make a call to the same function entry underscore type of, you can say that id dot entry comma L dot in. So this is how the will be get executed. So this order is called as the order of evaluation. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the order of execution of the given string. I mean to say that how the syntax directed definition works and how the evaluation will be taken place, how the value will be moved from one node to the another node will be shown in the dependency graph. Continuing with this, we'll take on one more example, the same example which we took earlier. So in case of this, it is an inherited attribute. So in case of this, we are going to generate a string of type 3 star 5. So how I'm going to generate 3 star 5? So how to generate a string 3 star 5? So the context free grammar for this will be T tends to FT, T dash tends to star FT dash, then T dash tends to epsilon, F tends to digit. Now once again, how to write the semantic rule for this? So you can just observe that first you write better to write a parse tree. So when I write the parse tree for this, T tends to F, F tends to, you can say that digit. Similarly, T tends to, T tends to FT, F tends to digit, and then T tends to, once again, star FT dash. So F tends to digit, and T dash tends to epsilon. So in order to evaluate this particular expression, you can just observe that I can get the value of 1, that is the first digit, I can get it from the lexical analyzer. Second digit also I can get it from the lexical analyzer. So this digit value will be 3, this digit value will be 5. So, but in order to execute this 3 star 5, now this star is available in this particular node. And one of the operand is present in this node, and another operand is present in some other node, I mean to say in another subtree. Now how to get its value? So in order to evaluate this particular star, I must have a value of F, I must have a value of T also. How to get that? So we write a semantic rule, that is, you can say that T1 dot inherited t dash dot inherited is equals to f dot value. So you can just observe that my t dash dot inherited is getting its value from f dot value. So it means that my t dash dot inherited is getting its value from the f dot value. So this is my synthesized attribute, whereas this is my inherited attributes. Why I'm getting this value? Until unless I get this value, I cannot execute this particular node because I don't have the value of one more operand. So once I get this value, so please observe that this t, this t, this t are one and the same. Only thing is to show that, so they are parent and child, we are showing it as a difference as t dash. So my rule will be t dash dot inherit equals to f dot value. I mean to say that I'm getting the value of f into the t using the inherited attribute. I'll come to this, what is this t dot value later. Once I get this value, so then my next evaluation will be, so I'm supposed to execute this value, that is t dash value. So in order to get this t dash value, so I have f value, I have t value. So once again, I need to execute, this value will be assigned to this value. So how to write that rule? That is t1 dash dot inherited. Which is my t1 dash dot inherited? My t1 dash dot inherited is equals to, so this is my t1 dash dot inherited. It becomes t1 dash dot inherited is equals to t dash dot inherited multiplied by f dot value. So you can observe that t dash value dot inherited, you got it from this, and f dot value is already available in this particular node. So once you evaluate this, then this becomes the inherited value for the next level. So assume that you have one more like star ft. So star ft. Once again, if you have, then once again you will have that particular node. This particular node becomes an inherited value. Once I get this value, once again this becomes my inherited value. You can just observe that this is once again it becomes an inherited value. Once I apply the epsilon for this, there is an option for me to apply the epsilon. So then my inherited value becomes my synthesized value. That's why it says that my t dash dot synthesized value is equals to t dash dot inherited value. You know that my inherited value can be itself. So in case of this, my t dash dot synthesized value will be the t dash dot inherited value because it has to go out to the upper level. So this particular rule will get executed. Once I execute this particular node, the same thing will be repeated. That is here in this case, so it becomes t dash dot synthesis equals to t1 dash dot synthesis. You can just observe that this synthesis value will becomes to the synthesis value for this one because it is getting its value from its child. That's why it becomes the synthesis value. Once again, this value will be passed to this particular t value. That's why we write a rule as t dot value is equals to t dash dot synthesize. So that's how this particular expression will be get evaluated. Now the order of evaluation will be, I get the value of 3 first, that is 1. I get the value of digit, that is 2. That is the value will be 3, the value will be 5. So either I can execute this or I can execute this. So if you assume that I execute 1, 2, then I execute this 3, and then I can execute, either I can execute 5 also or I can execute 4 also. Both are one and the same. You can just observe that if I want to execute 5, I must have executed 3. I cannot execute 5 without executing 3. That's why it is called as n1 less than n2. So similarly, once I execute 3, it